Welcome back to the Clubhouse, everyone. It is the guy that everyone loves to hate and loves to blame shit on when things don't go their way. Your boy, the Crooked Commish. So, back at it again. Had to take last week off to go out of town for a wedding. So, shout out to my sister-in-law, JD, and new brother-in-law, Austin, on a very beautiful wedding in New Mexico. Had a blast. Great to see extended family and stuff and get to catch up and have a few drinks and party, with them and stuff like that into the wee hours of the night. So can never complain when you get to hang out with friends and family like that. So like I said, congratulations to them again, once again. But now that that's all the way, let's go ahead and get right back in it to fantasy football. It's that time of the year, guys. We're starting to get little droplets, little sprinkles here and there. News. We're starting to see things like this happening more often. Fights going on amongst teammates there. Guys just getting agitated and irritated with seeing the same face over and over again, having to go against them week in and week out. So getting a little testy out there for some teams out. We see it every year. It happens every year. Sometimes it happens with my team. Sometimes it's maybe one of our guests that we're having on tonight. Happens with their team to where the just gets a little chippy. So, and we can understand that here, with fantasy football. Sometimes you're in the draft and the guy that you think is sliding down to you and you're oh so close to getting him, and then bam, you get Chris Kyle, an American Sniper, comes in and gets his ass. So, but we'll have plenty to talk about tonight. We're definitely going to go through and see who we think the top 5 in each category is going to be. Last year was a surprise with Baker Mayfield. I don't think very many people had him finishing in the top 5 in QBs and fantasy QBs last year. Maybe we should have saw it coming. I mean, he has plenty of weapons around him. He had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. He had a decent running game there with Rashad White and who's the other guy? I'll think of him later. But anyways, stick with us because we have Neon Peacock here to talk football with us, and we also have Lee from the Gen Wealth Network as well to talk some fantasy football here with us as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it and get the show started. That one, this one.
Clubhouse Network. Crash out, this a crash course, no lecture. Lay hack, keep a signal caller under pressure. Check the stats, spin the up score for the record. Chicago Clubhouse Network. Crash out, this a crash course, no lecture. Lay hack, keep a signal caller under pressure. Check the stats, spin the up score for the record. Introducing first, he the Crooked Commish, making sure it's understood that he him. Next up, he the mouth from the bay, dynamic duo, hit you with an ounce of that game, they make you bow face and salute the truth. Curve all the blase blind, the whoop-de-whoop. On the path to the bag, got that money and the power. They gon' ball every fantasy football hour. Got them sour, these hacks can't hack it. Meanwhile, they on point like a cactus. Want smoke and get smoked like some cat piss. If you can't be good, damn it, be good at it. Ay, Chicago Clubhouse Network. Crash out, this a crash course, no lecture. Lay hack, keep a signal caller under pressure. Check the stats, spin the up score for the record. Chicago Clubhouse Network. Crash out, this a crash course, no lecture. Lay hack, keep a signal caller under pressure. Check the stats, spin the up score for the record.
Just like that, we are back. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let me get my guest in here with us. We are going to be a man shy tonight. the Mouth from the Bay had some family matters to attend to, like I had to do last week. So he will not be joining us, but it's all good. We got plenty of other people here that can fill in his place. So some good substitutes tonight. Please welcome back our first guest. Like I said, you've seen him a few times here in the clubhouse, and we always love it when they do come back to talk more fantasy football. That means they had a great time. So hopefully we'll continue that trend and have another good time here. So first up, it's Lee from the Gen Wealth Network. Let's go ahead and get him in here. Lee, what is good?
Not much. What's up, Crooked? Thanks for having me.
Besides my blood pressure, not a damn thing.
There, man.
So yeah, no, it's all good. But that's what the medication's for. So that'll take care of that. I ain't it. So hi to Janet out there. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you guys haven't already. I would appreciate it if you could do me a solid and do that. So Lee, how you doing? How have you been lately?
Doing good. Thank you for asking. Surviving this Texas weather.
Yeah, I'm dealing with some.
You got it bad out there yourself.
Yeah, we're dealing with 110, 113 degree weather over here in Phoenix. So
yeah, you get that. I'll be dealing with that for 3 days in August in Vegas. So that's enough for me.
At least you'll be in Vegas though. So
yeah.
But
no.
Anyways, let's go ahead and get in our third guest of the evening. Again, a familiar face to the clubhouse. He's been in here before. We asked him to come back, and damn it, he listened. So hopefully you guys listen and you come back as well. So let's bring in Miles from Neon Peacock here, merchandise. He is the man responsible for these lovely shirts here, the Crooked Commish shirt. So if you guys,
everybody's wearing a Neon Peacock shirt. All right, that's what's up.
Exactly. And if you want one, this is the website here. I posted it on there. Check them out. We have a good sale going on, 35% off right now. Is something crazy like that? Did I
that's
that
correct.
Right?
Yeah, 35% off the entire website. So anything you put in your cart will be 35% off. But specifically, $14 T-shirts right now. You can get a front image, a full front image, or a full back image for $14. Throw in a couple more dollars, you can get a crest and a back image, or front and back image for about $19. Then we have, of course, mugs, jackets, shower curtains, throw pillows, all the other good things. If you like a design, you can get it on just about anything. So head on over to neonpeacockmerch.com and you can go ahead and check out all the cool designs I got up there.
Guys, you need to take advantage of this guy's drinking habits. He's pulling out killer deals like that. And, I feel bad taking advantage of that, but hey, I'm going to do it because, 35% off.
And my wardrobe's got plenty of them.
Appreciate both of you guys actually for, making purchases and stuff like that. So, asking for something to be commissioned and then getting it up there. I mean, it makes the customer extremely happy because they're getting something personalized that they, specifically asked for. So my DMs are always open. You guys can hit me up in the chat. Find me over on the Gen Wealth Net. And I'm also Miles Peacock 24 on Instagram. Like I said, my DMs are always open.
And on Facebook as well. I believe you can find them on Facebook.
Miles Peacock, one of the few.
Yes. Guys, if you have an idea for a shirt or whatnot, trust me, this guy can make it out there. So, like I said.
I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody. If you have some free time, just go ahead and check it out. Killer deal going on for the next 5 days. So take advantage.
Absolutely. So. Well, guys, thank you for joining us here, coming back to the clubhouse. I really do appreciate you coming back to talk some fantasy football here. I know last time we were kind of talking about each division and breaking it down. We talked a little bit about your team, Miles, which was the Houston Texans. And then we also, of course, with Lee, talked about your team, the Chargers, and what the expectations were from each one of you guys and stuff. And not to say they were pretty high from you guys. So no one's really expecting their team to be with the so
yeah, we don't want to see a drop off from last year. Lee and I faced each other in the playoffs in the wild card last year, the Chargers and the Texans. So we had a good time enjoying successful seasons from our clubs.
Yep, and we're hoping for another one.
Yes. So as I was saying earlier today, last year, I think the surprise QB on the fantasy list that made like the top 5 was Baker Mayfield, at least in my eyes. Even though he had the good weapons around him, he seemed so shaky with his last 2 teams, with the Carolina and with the Rams. You kind of didn't know what to expect out of him, even though he's a dog and he is a gamer. He fit into that role quite well. And like I said, had one of the best fantasy seasons out there, at least last year. I think he finished number 3 overall in most fantasy leagues for QBs and stuff. So the top, to round it up, I think it was Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and then, of course, Jared Goff there, roughly around in that order. Maybe Jaden Daniels kind of squeezes in there in your league. So with that all being said, do you see more of the same names kind of sticking around there, or which name in that category do you see maybe dropping off and kind of coming back down to earth a little?
I'll go ahead and jump in. I think it's a name that you didn't actually mention, but you could see him maybe hover around the back end of that top 5. It'd be Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's, career kind of, rushing, pats his stats behind the rushing touchdown. Last year, they haven't taken away the tush push. There's been no ban there, so he was still able to bank on that. We did see a high usage for guys like Saquon Barkley. AJ Brown still finished like a top 12-ish in fringe wide receiver 1, despite them not throwing the ball very much. So I think that if the touchdowns aren't necessarily sticky, but he does rush those things in from the 1-yard line. We see a lot more Saquon go that way. Maybe his numbers digress and he finishes outside the top 5. So that might be one guy. I think that, after a Super Bowl run and then you win it, I don't know if the drive is still going to be there for the Eagles. It just depends, right? And it's hard to repeat or even three-peat like the Chiefs had trouble with. So, how long can they stay on the top of their game? How long can that offense, continue to do what they do, and not face a lot of challenges? I know that there were several games where, they kind of they had a lead and they kind of ran away with it. And they just leaned on Saquon, and other games where it was kind of close and they still weren't forced to throw the ball. So I feel like Jalen Hurts just kind of does what he does and then is done with it a lot of times in these games. Like he gets to a certain point. 2 years ago, if you look at Jalen Hurts, he was putting up fantasy points, and then the second half of the game, he wasn't giving you anything, and they were kind of slowing it down. And I think this last season, it was kind of like, all right, he's giving you an okay game, and then it just depends on the game script. So he was still able to finish top 5, or in some categories, depending on your league scoring, right? He still finished in that area, but I think that that's somebody who could probably drop back a little bit when you see the emergence of guys like Jaden Daniels from Washington, Baker maybe repeating and being able to still finish up there with his weapons. The addition of Bucky Irving, Ika Ibuka, they got some other wide receiver talent there in the rookies. So if those names continue to kind of rise, Goff, if he gets more consistent, right, if those names rise, then I would say maybe a guy like Jalen Hurts, with touchdowns not being so sticky, maybe he falls back. So that'd be one name that I would probably consider. He's a dynasty guy that I had on a lot of rosters, over the years, and right now kind of cooled off on him, not real hot, not drafting him in a lot of places. So Jalen Hurts would be the name there.
Lee, out of those, Joe Burrow, Baker, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, who do you think has a chance of maybe dropping off? Maybe even Lamar Jackson. Does he have that much of a regression somehow, or not?
I don't see a regression from Lamar. Because they got him some few more weapons, but I do. Let's see. I think we're gonna get the Burrow we're gonna normally see, but I'm gonna in year 2 of the Harbaugh system. I'm hoping Herbert gets in the top 5. I'm hoping for a big year because this is year 2. He has more weapons. He has receivers to throw to. He has Mike Williams. He has Ladd coming back. He has Harris, who's going to produce. He's got weapons. He has Hampton. He has Najee. So if my boy doesn't get in top 5, I'm going to say something's wrong because this, I feel, is a team he hasn't had since he came into the NFL.
He's like, oh, he needs to not throw. He needs to not throw 4 interceptions in a playoff game to start.
It's all going to pick up. We're at the beginning of the season, so I'm not worried about those playoffs just yet. But no, that's a bitter pill to swallow, though.
Yeah, that's tough. But no,
the last thing I saw, my boy Herbert.
Herbert definitely was cooking for a little bit. There were some stretches there. So yeah, if he gets some better wide receiver play to support McConkey, then I could definitely see him making a jump back, into that fantasy relevant quarterback, not necessarily just a streamer, but somebody who's kind of like a sleeper, I guess, in a sense.
But I could see Baker having a big year this year.
Yeah, I'm high on Baker. I drafted Baker in a lot of dynasty startups.
Yeah, I'm thinking the connection between him and Mike Williams is only going to continue to get better, if not at least stay what it was last year. I know Mike Williams is getting up there, or not Mike Williams, Mike Evans. I'm sorry.
Mike Evans.
Is getting up there in age and whatnot, and he can't have 1,000-yard receiving season every year. That's got to end eventually.
But he has.
No, but he has. But like I said, Father Time is undefeated. So eventually, they
got some other bodies in there too.
Hit that wall.
They mitigated the risk. They mitigated the risk by drafting Amika Buka, who I thought was probably one of the more polished, better wide receiver, pro-ready, guys coming out of this draft. So I think that was a great pick for them. If they have injury concerns like they had with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans from time to time, they will miss some games, and they have somebody who can step up and be reliable instead of a McMillan or I don't know, throw out any other names that they kind of had out there, right? That's just why you had guys like Bucky Irving catching some of the guys.
Out there one for a
there
while
you go.
there.
Sterling Shepard was a deep league flyer, waiver wire flyer if you're desperate. I felt that. I had a very thin wide receiver bench in a dynasty where I had to throw Sterling Shepard into a couple lineups for a few weeks. But yeah, they had some injury concerns there. So I think, like I said, mitigating that risk with some draft capital, a good receiver like EE, as we call him over there, then I like what the chances of Baker still being able to put up those numbers. Like I said, he has players, he has a cast around him, and it's been a real big difference, resurgence in his career. I was a Baker hater from Cleveland, from college to Cleveland, and I did not like him in college. I was off of Baker. I did not like his attitude. I was like, just play football type of thing, and he was too animated for me. But it's kind of carried over now into the NFL. It's kind of who he is, and some people get around it. Didn't work in Cleveland. Bad coaching, bad system, bad franchise. And then moved around a little bit. You mentioned it, right? He was in some previous other teams. But I did like what I saw his short time with the Rams, where he was just able to kind of learn on the playbook almost overnight, have a great performance, showed flashes still that he can be a good football player. And then Tampa Bay took that chance on him. And then here we are, a couple seasons in. So I think the chances of him putting up a top 10 quarterback performance are still very likely. But if we're drafting him, at his ceiling, like QB4 or whatever, be wary, stay cautious about stuff like that. You could still catch Baker, in a draft sliding. People aren't going to be super high up on him, I don't think.
I agree. I think it's one of those, if you can get him in the mid rounds after, the big names go, you'll be fine and live with that,
he may be somebody I'm actually targeting in redrafts this year. It's going to be my guy.
That's good to know as I'm going into another draft with you. So, but what do you call it? The guy on the list there for me that I think has the most likely chance of dropping off there, and he was the guy that was fringing it at the very end, is probably Jared Goff. Yeah. And that's because you lose the offensive coordinator there. He moves on. And it's not just him. The receiving coach, Antoine Randall L, moves on. So you have a lot of, those guys moving on. You have new guys taking on, new positions. You would think the playbook is going to be relatively the same, but who the hell knows? And, Jared Goff, not necessarily the oldest QB out there, but is another year older, learning another offensive playbook here. So maybe he might have some hiccups, hit some speed bumps there along the way this season to where he doesn't get in the top 5. Not saying he would drop off the top 10 and go into, fall into a black hole, but still finish maybe around 9 or 10 there this season instead of, 5.
Yeah, that's a good name to bring up. That offense was number one offense points per game fantasy wise late last year. So I mean, when you're at the top, you can usually only just go down. So expectations on that should be tempered, and you draft Jared Goff with some, with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah. So
but he's also a guy that I've taken in a lot of dynasty superflex startups. I have the Baker Goff combo in a lot of leagues.
Okay, well then, I mean, like I said,
but dynasty is different, than redraft. I'm looking for these guys to put up a good top-ish, top half, like decent offensive performances from offenses that like to put up points, and we can trust they're going to go out there and score points. So we know the Lions are going to do that, even though they may drop off from number one scoring offense, right, to a few spots back. We hope it's not dramatic, like you mentioned. And then we know the Tampa Bay puts up points, and they have a lot of weapons that like to spread the ball around there, the way that they play football and on the offensive side. So you want to kind of buy into, in Dynasty especially, buy into those pieces, those quarterbacks you believe in, who are going to have a good supporting cast around them for a number of years. I mean, Jared Goff can close his eyes and throw it downfield in the hope that Jammo is out there, or, dink and dunk it down low to Laporta or Amon-Ra, or he can pitch it out to Gibbs. Yes. I mean, there's so many different things for them to do. So I know losing that offensive coordinator may be kind of scary, but they have so many weapons there. You're going to hope that they can figure it out.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. So being a Bears fan, I hope that they don't, but whatever. I'm not gonna get distracted and take it to a side issue there. So, but anyways, what I wanted to say real quick before we move on to running backs with Lee, with your QB Justin Herbert. I like his skill set, and I think he has all the talent in the world. I think the only thing I'm concerned about him getting into top 5 is just Harbaugh's coaching style, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's a run first offense. Yeah, it's that is the cliche with the Harbaugh offense and the Greg Roman offense. It's the Greg Roman offense.
All I have to say is, if he does get those numbers and gets there, I think that may be a sign or that they were playing catch up or had to come from behind a lot. The fact that he had to throw the ball. So if that happens, obviously it could just all flow and work together, where the running game's working so well that it opens up the passing games and he's hitting some, big time plays.
Last year it started off like heavy on the run game, and they leaned heavily on that the first 2 weeks at least, and then it kind of broke down. That the game plan didn't work there, so they were kind of forced to take it to the air a little bit. I think after about a month of football, 4 or 5 weeks in, they let Herbert loose after that. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Then again, he was also injured starting the year off too. So hopefully that doesn't happen again.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So like I said, all those things he definitely has going for him that are things that he's not going to have to deal with. And like you said, Lee, you made up a good point, and the fact it's year 2 under this same offense, so he should be even more comfortable under it and understand it that much more. So, but like I said, it's a long season. The players around him have to produce as well. Receivers like Mike Williams drops passes that hit him right in the hands.
Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson too. That ain't gonna happen.
It's not Herbert's fault. It's not Herbert's fault.
No, exactly. So, well, let's move on to the running backs here. I think it's no surprise, and I think in pretty much everybody's league, Saquon Barkley was a clear number 1 running back last year in fantasy. Followed by, and this is standard PPR that I'm looking at here, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, and then to round up top 5, Devontae A-Chain. So who do you see on that list, or who do you think on that list there is the more likely one to possibly drop out of that top 5?
Oof. If I wanted to go, but just solely on the names that you mentioned and kind of sticking with the way that I don't think he'll drop all the way out of the top 5, but Barkley wouldn't probably most likely not finish RB1 again. If you look at the way that RBs finish, they have a fantasy season with a ton of touches, like the way that he did, and then finishing number 1 overall. It just doesn't happen unless your name's Christian McCaffrey. I think he finished like 1-3-1 a series like that, something like that, right? But other than that, we haven't really seen it. So I do expect a decline, but I have him like Barkley at like 3. I don't really have anybody like dropping off. Achane was able to produce despite the offense being completely horrible. Like just his efficiency dropped off from like a 7 yard per touch metric to like 4.7 or something like that. And he's still finished, you know, in those regards are the top running back. So he probably has a better chance to just kind of stay in and hover if you expect the offense to bounce back a little bit this season. I really don't know. The verdict is still out on Miami with me. I don't know what's going on there. Tyreek Hill is another year older. Jalen Waddle can never stay healthy. So, and then Mike McDaniel just looked completely flabbergasted.
He looked lost.
Exactly. So I don't know if they're going to be able to bounce back. But those two guys would probably be the ones that kind of just stand out to me as far as maybe some worry with Achane. I don't think he necessarily regresses. I do think that the offense, if they're as bad as they were last year, he'll still be pretty good, right? But Barkley with the usage,
bright spot,
yeah. Barkley with the usage is the only thing that scares me. But if you want to peg him down for like a full 17-game season or 16-game or whatever it is, full fantasy season, and he's healthy, then he's probably not finishing outside of the top 3 for me. But I don't think that he repeats as RB1. I have it Gibbs, Bijan, Barkley in that order. And I still have Derrick Henry being a threat regardless of his age, hanging out there number 4. But my surprise entry into the top 5 is going to be Josh Jacobs.
That's what I was going to say too.
If he can catch some more passes in Green Bay and break off more long runs like he mentioned he wants to do, then yeah, he can definitely crack the top 5 there. And that's who I would have maybe replacing Achane or maybe even Derrick Henry because he's a little older. And who knows if he's going to score 20 touchdowns again, right? So in a full PPR.
I don't like that shit. For sure, bro. I don't like that shit.
I know you don't like the Packers. I know you don't like the Packers.
But he was, to be fair, he was borderline. He was the number 6 guy here. So, I mean, like it's not like that's kind of coming out of nowhere or whatnot. So he was nearly there in the top 5. And in some leagues, he may have been right there at the bottom there at the number 5 guy. So I really don't like that take just because I really don't like saying anything good about Green Bay, you know. So I hope that's not the case. But if that does happen, I guess I wouldn't be completely surprised there and stuff. But Josh Jacobs, hell of a runner, doesn't go down easy with first contact. And like you said, if he can just get a few more catches and be a little bit more relevant in the passing game for PPR relevancy, then he's definitely could definitely have a shot of definitely being a top 5 in fantasy running back.
Yeah, I think this last year versus my Texans, he caught his first career receiving touchdown. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, get the guys more attempts to catch the ball in the air, see what he can do, and think that he'll be a nice surprise maybe, or at least a steady one for RB fantasy wise.
Yeah. Like I said. I don't want to say too many nice things about them. I know we got a Packer fan already watching, and once you get one Packer fan watching, they start multiplying.
You get them all watching.
Yeah, they just pile it on. Yeah.
Lee, onto what do you think of that running back list there?
I'd throw in Bucky Irving.
Throwing Bucky Irving, making okay, yeah.
Buck.
I mean,
Buck.
As JD calls him.
Throwing in Bucky Irving.
If he can take over that backfield completely and get rid of Rachaad White, then yeah, I 1,000% can see that because, like you were talking about earlier with the Bucks, they got plenty of weapons in the receiving aspect, and even they have a solid tight end with Cade Ott. Is it?
Cade Ott, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they had a 3-headed juggernaut because not only those 2 guys, you got Sean Tucker also stealing some carries. So
he was
decent last year.
He was doing decent. Yeah, he had some games. That's right.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So yeah, the offense is moving so proficiently through the air, and the way Baker was spreading it around, that you give these guys a few carries here and there to keep the defense honest, and they would forget about it. They were gashing them.
Yeah.
So, and those running backs catch a lot of passes too from Baker.
Yeah, if he could stay, the key thing obviously is staying healthy. If he could stay healthy, and for something happens to White, whether he gets traded or it's a long season, he takes a bad hit or whatever, and Bucky gets more opportunities, then absolutely 1,000% can get the volume and the touchdown and gets everything that comes from that to be a top 5 fantasy running back. But obviously, you don't want to try and draft him as a top 5 running back. Hopefully, you can still get him in a decent round to where you get some good value from him and whatnot. So, but myself, I can't. Kind of like what I was saying with Mike Evans, man. Like Derrick Henry, that's gotta, those wheels gotta fall off sometime, man.
Yeah.
The older guy, and he's got such a good setup with Baltimore there and the offensive scheme, and such a good line there that if you went on and had another 2 more seasons that goes for over 1,000 yards, I wouldn't be completely blown away by that, But after that, like I said, it does have to end sometime with him, and he's one low hit, one bad shot away from all of a sudden, he doesn't run the same.
No, he is one hit, one Henry. Yeah.
He's a big boy though. I saw him for many, many years in Tennessee, and I thought the wheels were going to fall off like 3 seasons ago, and they just never did. So, I'm with you. I'll rock with Mike Evans. I'll rock with these older guys until the wheels do fall off. I'm kind of taking a step back. Like Cooper Kupp, I'm scared. Probably won't touch that one. There's some older guys there that like Christian McCaffrey. He's not older, but the type of injury he had, the way he went down twice last season, scares me. I'm not going to blow a pick that early. Now, if he falls to RB
4th round, 5th round, yeah,
whatever in the draft, right? I feel comfortable. Depends, right, where it is. If I can grab him and he's an RB2 or something like that for me, and I already have somebody that I'm comfortable with and safe, then yeah, McCaffrey, we didn't even talk about him, right, having a full season. But I just don't know if he comes back and he's like that full workhorse, going to see like 100, catch 100 passes. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to see from him? What are we going to see? That's a big question mark going into the season here for McCaffrey. I think once we get closer towards the draft and we're hearing things about practice and, he's doing fine and we catch some clips, then he'll probably start rising in the ranks again and be there. But I'm probably just too scared. I've had that same type of calf tendonitis injury strain that I've dealt with before, and it nags. It never fully really went away. It takes several months to recuperate from fully, and then you don't know because you feel fine, and then you're running all of a sudden, and then boop, it's gone again. So
it's in your head too. I'm sure it gets in your
head.
It
definitely could be. So personally, I'm off CMC, and it's just a scary proposition in fantasy drafts. There's a lot of risk in there. Now, I know people will be like, hey, the heart to start, don't risk it to biscuit, all that kind of stuff. You pull the trigger, right? But that could tank your whole your whole season. So you want to mitigate risk.
Once running backs start running scared, they're not the same. Like
no, because it's all psychological in the head. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the biggest thing with guys coming back from injuries. That's a very good point. I'm super wary of him too, and I feel like if I draft him, I have to wear like kid gloves and stuff. Like he's a fine crystal ball of china.
You're definitely getting the handcuff super early. You're probably reaching in the probably like the 5th or 6th round and just say, I'm going to take the handcuff here because you don't want somebody else to take him from you.
Just in case, because there's nothing more frustrating than your main running back or main guy going down and somebody else.
He'd be the main guy. He'd be the main guy because once if he finishes healthy, he's one of those overall top fantasy finishers. You know what I'm saying? He's a point getter. Both. Not only will he get the rushing attempts, but he'll get the receptions as well. So he's a conundrum. But for me, honestly, I think I'd just rather not deal with the headache. I did have him in a dynasty, and I was just like, leave him on the IR. Don't bring him back. And then when he came back, I was like, all right, I activated him. And then boop, he was gone again. And it's like the worst feeling ever.
Because you got to drop someone.
I mean, I'm sure he felt bad and 49er fans felt bad. But, as a fantasy manager, you feel it just as much.
No, we do. Like it's definitely felt in my pockets as well whenever one of my key players goes down because it's like, damn it, I'm not getting that.
Yep.
So one of the guys that I think that could make a surprise appearance if everything goes right for him in the running back category and maybe flirt with the top 5 is I think Chase Brown with Cincinnati.
I think that's not.
He's a riser right now.
Yeah, and we saw how good Joe Mixon was with Cincinnati when he was healthy and rocking with Joe Burrow and whatnot. So if
Top
Chase
5 running
Brown
back.
can fully get that role and not lose many touches to Zach Moss, which I'm not sure if he's still even on the team right now.
Well, they already said Chase Brown's going to be the workhorse.
He should be the guy.
Yes, he very well should be. So, but you never know.
Yeah, and we like to attach
crossed.
ourselves to those good offenses, like kind of like how Gibbs is in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? That's or Bucky in Tampa. It's the same situation we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, 1,000%.
With Chase in Cincinnati.
So going from one Chase to another Chase, still on the Bengals, talking about the wide receivers here. Yeah, Jamar Chase. Did you guys happen to see real quick? See that video that's going out lately where he like
yeah, I did.
Where he trying to give him a hug at the
female? Yeah.
Yes.
I have not seen that one yet.
He went like this.
Hilarious.
Oh yeah.
This girl, you know, he's leaving the nightclub and this girl's seen him and it's like, oh, and she's all decked out, you know, and she goes to like, oh, give him a hug, and he just
turns his shoulder.
He just kind of like just walks by her, like dismisses her. He doesn't acknowledge her, look her way, just keeps looking like that, and she's just like the look on her face of like she wanted to be like, motherfucker, you ain't shit. But it's like, nah, he is like, that's Jamar Chase, like top receiver in the NFL.
Curved her.
Exactly what he did. He curved her.
The look on her face was like that was the first time that's ever happened to her in her life. She was just
wow.
And it probably wouldn't be the last.
Not after that, yeah. All her homegirls ain't gonna live that down. All her frenemies right there, but like, ha ha, told
saving
you.
That to the phone. Yeah.
She got her viral moment.
Yeah, no, she did.
Probably not the way she wanted, but But yeah, Chase is at the top of my wide receiver list. I think that, you know, Joe Burrow being the probably only the pure pocket passing fantasy quarterback point getter, you know what I'm saying, that's really out there. So his number one target, obviously Chase. They've been doing it for a minute. And so, I mean, Burrow's so good at slinging the rock over there that, you know, T. Higgins gets brought into fringe wide receiver, you know, one category sometimes when he's another guy I don't like to really mess with too much, just because of the risk mitigation with the injury, because it seems to happen to him every single year. But when he's good, or when he's healthy, he's good. So you love that. And Joe Burrow can definitely facilitate almost. We've picked up guys like Yoshi Voss and you know, just randos off of the waiver wire when Higgins is down because Joe Burrow is so good over there. So no argument, man. Chase got to be the number one.
Yeah, he's easy. Yeah.
Then Justin Jefferson follows him, which is no surprise there. JJ's awesome. Amon St. Brown, number 3. Brian Thomas, the rookie, number 4. And then to round out, Drake London, number 5. Number 6 was Malik Neighbors, another rookie there. So, man, it's hard to say which one of those 5 could drop out. I mean, I think the only real – I guess you got to ask yourself, which QB do you like less between Sunshine and Michael Penix?
Trevor Lawrence is I'm not a huge proponent of
I'd say,
And you have another mouth that comes in that you have to feed. And it seems like every single year we're like, oh, you know, the Jaguars are going to be great, or, you know, they're supposed to be here, and then they just fall short, and for some reason they disappoint. It's happened with Travis Etienne. It's happened with Trevor Lawrence. It's happened with everybody except – it's happened with Christian Kirk. It's happened with everybody except for Brian Thomas, who was a rookie last season. And he was only really good because Mac Jones came in for a stretch, and that's when he really started, you know, doing it for us in fantasy. It wasn't even Trevor Lawrence. So if anybody, I would say me, but Brian Thomas is a dog. Drake London finally arrived. We've seen what he can do, you know, in his collegiate career, and with Michael Penix now, the quarterback change, because Corky Kirk didn't really have it there. I think there's a lot of volatility in the top 5 for wide receivers. I think that it'll change. It'll depend. Neighbors was propped up by a shit ton of targets over there. I don't know if he's going to see that same kind of treatment, you know. Maybe things change. So a lot of volatility. I think somebody who would probably jump in and knock some of those guys out would be a guy like Puka Nacua. I know that people are saying like, oh, Devontae Adams is whatever, still dog. Sure, he's another year older. And even if he is a touchdown kind of like magnet target or whatever, and he becomes that for Stafford, I think Puka Nacua is still going to do a ton of damage underneath in between, especially with the likes of Cooper Kupp, who was probably Matthew Stafford's favorite target forever and ever. So I think that's kind of replaced that place. Exactly. So I think that somebody like Puka could come in and step into the place of Cooper Kupp, who was a Triple Crown winner just a couple of seasons ago. So I think that Puka could probably shake this thing up. I think also that somebody like J.J. McCarthy, who's still an unproven rookie, may not be able to prop up Justin Jefferson if he doesn't throw him the ball a lot and give him like Malik Neighbors type stuff. Sam Darnold was extremely efficient last season, and I don't know how the hell that worked, but he was able to parlay that into a new contract somewhere else. So good for him. But maybe Justin Jefferson is just that good, and I'm not going to say that that he isn't, because I've seen the guy play. He is definitely, talent alone, it would be Chase and Justin Jefferson, but it's the quarterback play for me. So I kind of like Chase. I kind of like Puka kind of sneaking up there from behind. And then I just like the grittiness, toughness of Amon-Ra and the amount of targets that he gets there. His goals are 100 yards and 2 touchdowns every game. So he puts that in his helmet and his locker and stuff like that. So you like guys that are like that. You also know that he'll play through injury. So those are like my guys that are up there solid. Other than that, like I said, it's probably Puka coming up and knocking somebody else who's 4, 5, 6, knocking those guys out. I will say, as a Texans fan, though, if Nico Collins,
I was going to say Nico.
If he can play a full season, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
He was on pace to be the wide receiver one, or he was the wide receiver one for at least the first 5 weeks of the season last year. So, but I'm not going to mention him here because, like I said, with running backs or other guys, or T. Higgins even, I mentioned it earlier, guys who just consistently miss games, kind of mitigate the risk there. So Nico does it.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I think Nico. I was gonna say Nico because with all the additions they made on that offense, on the line and stuff like that, they're gonna give CJ more time to throw the ball.
Yeah, and one of the names that has been in the top 5 before that wasn't on there this year or this past season, but can very easily get right back up there. Someone like CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
CeeDee Lamb, if health is the main thing there. He needs Dak Prescott to be healthy. Who knows how this new offensive coordinator and this new offense is going to be with now that Mike McCarthy's not there anymore. So if it's a more pass-happy offensive system, then maybe CeeDee Lamb can definitely get his way back in there. It's not someone that's old either. So just a few years removed from being a top 3 receiver in fantasy leagues. So
he's definitely up there. I had trouble not ranking him high, and then I still had trouble like putting him in the top 5 also. It was just kind of I kind of looked around, and I know that I guess kind of just based a little bit on the way that the team played and finished last year, just kind of having him just right around 6 or 7, personally. But in dynasties, I still took him as in startups this over the summer, I took him as my wide receiver 2, 3, 1, in some instances. So still very talented, very young. Yeah. Now, and George Pickens, maybe George Pickens with the arrival of George Pickens, that helps to alleviate some coverage pressure and opens the offense up, but yet to be seen.
I agree. Lee, what are your thoughts on possibly CeeDee Lamb? Is it is it not completely crazy thought?
Or you know what? I think it's a possibility. But I think the dark horse is going to be how are they going to mix it with pick? Someone's going to be open, but someone's going to feed too. But we know Dak loves CD.
Yeah. I feel like Pickens is maybe more of a take the top off the defense.
Yeah, take the top off the exactly.
And we can take some shots maybe and see. He's kind of profiled that way in his career out there in Pittsburgh a little bit. So, and I figured that's the way he would work.
In the first 2 weeks, how that works, how that shakes out. And we'll see.
And CD can move the sticks and work intermediate to deep and stuff like that. So, and when we saw when Dak was hurt, that he had, I forgot, Cooper Rush or whoever the quarterback was, that they could use CD basically anywhere and everywhere. But then they played him all the way until he broke last season. And so like you mentioned, injury probably the first season that we really see some heavy injury bugs from CeeDee Lamb, and then coupled with the Dak Prescott injury. So Dak's been getting hurt a lot here in the later part of his career as well. So it's just got to protect him as well and keep him upright in order for CeeDee Lamb to have I think another productive season where he does break into top 5. Because if Dak misses some games or CeeDee misses some games, obviously, I don't think it's going to happen.
What are your guys' feelings on Malik Neighbors now that he doesn't have Daniel Jones there? Russell Wilson's throwing him the ball, and if something happens to Russ where he, cooks too much and he ends up burning his shit, in comes famous Jameis, the true 30 for 30 warrior out there. So do you see his numbers looking at relatively the same or possibly getting better with these more experienced QBs?
I think if he's the only show in town still in the wide receiver, target area where he's commanding a large target share like he did last season, then he'll be perfectly fine. I mean, his volume, his volume was great, but you got to also remember that they killed him. Like he was getting like 18, 20 targets, and then he got concussed or, they're breaking him. So I don't know if he's going to be able to withstand that kind of season again. Now, maybe you'll be getting some better looking footballs coming from guys like Russell Wilson, some moon balls from Wilson maybe, and he breaks open for a touchdown, or from Jameis as well, right? But I also heard that these guys want to give the reins over to Jackson Dart during the season. So what's going to happen there? Is it going to be an experimental year? Are you gonna break him again and just completely hammer him with like 20 targets a game and he just gets pounded out there in the secondary because he's your only form of offense? So I don't think that's a really good game plan. So he's going to have to be more efficient with his targets because he's probably not going to see as many as he did last year. I don't know what his total target numbers were last year, but I think it was something.
He was getting around 18 or 19 a game.
at some point.
He was getting fed.
That's, you'd love to see it.
So his total targets last year was 170. His numbers were 109 catches on 1,204 yards, 7 touchdowns, 11.1 yards per catch.
What, he missed about 3 games, right? Because of concussions? Something like that. He missed
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know he missed about 2 or 3 due to concussions. Yeah.
Yeah. I know he missed a few, but I'm not exactly sure how many he missed. But still, even to miss 2 or 3 games and still put up those kind of numbers is pretty impressive, especially for being a rookie and whatnot. So compared to
especially
Brian
having
Thomas,
shitty quarterback play too.
Yeah, but that's to Peacock's point. Like he's the only receiver that any QB trusted on that team, because even when Daniel Jones got pulled, he was still getting featured, more often than not. So compare that to the other rookie there. Brian Thomas had 133 targets. So, I mean, he had a decent amount himself, but like just completely, like I said, about almost 40 more targets just in general over there for Malik there. But.
Yeah, week 2, 18 targets, 12, 15. That's great. And then he died, not necessarily, but he was injured for 2 games. And he comes back and it's like, all right, we're going to ease him in 8. Cool, he survived. And it's like 13, 11, 10. Great, he got to a bye week. 9, 13, 10, 14. So he was hitting 14 plus targets like on the regular.
Yeah, and if you catch even half of those, that's 7 catches there, and you get 80 yards. I mean, you know what I mean? That's still a decent fantasy day. You sprinkle on a touchdown here and there.
Yeah. So, I mean, the touchdowns could probably go up. The offense doesn't have a lot of opportunities to score, but yeah, I mean, if he's going to be getting this kind of volume, how does he not finish? I mean, at least in the top 8, right? So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead. We got a few minutes left here. Let's run through the tight ends. We have some time here. The top one, no surprise there. I think everybody knows.
Brock Bowers.
Thank you, Peacock.
McBride?
Yes, Brock Bowers, and most leagues. Trey McBride, George Kittles, then Jonnu Smith.
Jonah.
Yeah, he's one of the Jonas brothers. He just And
Yes.
then
We're gonna use that. We'll run with that.
To round out is the oldie Travis Kelce made the top 5. Number 6 was Mark Andrews. So maybe in some leagues that kind of fluctuates. So as bad of a start as Mark Andrews had it to the season last year, he ended up coming on strong. Pause. And
the touchdown category, especially.
Yeah. But out of that list there, I think Jonnu Smith, he's now moved on. I don't think he's with Miami anymore.
No, he's still with Miami.
Did
no,
he?
I thought he got.
I thought he moved on.
I thought he went somewhere. Hold on.
Yes, let me.
Did he go somewhere?
Most positive he signed elsewhere.
Oh, he only has one end.
Let me see.
Jonnu. Oh, I'm in the wide receivers. That's why. Yeah, he's still. Yeah, no, I guess he is still with Miami.
He's still in Miami. They got.
That's right. They were talking about trading him. And
they were talking about trade, but
Miami
wants to hold on to him.
That's why I was thinking that. Yes, Pittsburgh was in serious talks with him. That's right.
Yeah, when the Aaron Rodgers stuff came along, they were trying to get him too.
That's what it was. That's why we were thinking, or at least I was thinking that.
Yeah, that's crazy because it felt like that was not only that, but I think a lot of teams were interested in Jonnu Smith when his contract situation wasn't working out in Miami. So it was more than just the Steelers, but that's why I felt like he was no longer in Miami. But if he's there, if he's there, then maybe Miami's offense it ran through him
for at least 4 or 5 weeks solid.
Yeah, and
he had 111 targets.
Mm-hmm. If Tyreek Hill continues to decline, 29 is a good age to start breaking out as a tight end.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Kelce is probably on the outs there. I think he's already showing signs of slowing down and not being the Travis Kelce that he was 2-3 years ago.
He lost like 25 pounds or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he lost about 25 to 30.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it doesn't. I don't know how much it's helping him on the football field, but
I don't know if that's going to help him on the football field.
No, he's going to need that.
That sounds like he's getting ready to retire soon.
Yeah,
Taylor's telling him to come on home.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to fit into a tux, look good in the tux and get slimmed down and stuff. So
wedding date approaching or something, and you never know. Yeah, 35's up there. Usually guys don't make it too far past that, no matter what position they're playing.
If I was single and she asked me, I would definitely say yes. You know what I mean? So I don't so but she would have to ask me.
Yeah. See that.
But George Kittle is also another one that's getting up there in age, but still has a solid connection with Brock Purdy. So
Ayuk's going to probably miss the start of the season as well, as what I've heard.
Yeah, so I see Kittle getting a few more. 4 more targets.
He's going to start the season nice and strong, probably, and he'll be a good pick because nobody's taking him. Yeah, I think he finished tight end 3 last year, if I'm not mistaken, most formats or something like that. No, you don't have to pay tight end 3 prices really. A lot of the times he'll be drafted after some of these other guys. You'll see somebody take a chance on Sam Laporta before they pull the trigger on George Kittle for some reason, and I don't know what it is.
Now, is there any reason to think that Brock Bowers' production will drop down at all with Geno Smith now being his QB? I mean, it can only get.
I can only see it getting better with a better quarterback position.
And a better run game.
I mean, he had 152 targets, so I don't know how much more targets he can get from there, but maybe he's just more efficient. Maybe he gets more TDs. Yeah,
that probably, right? Maybe the offense is a little bit better, more opportunities to score. Big-bodied, sure-handed, basically a receiver at tight end, right? He's not necessarily really a tight end. So, you look at it that way. If you want to go into this offense and look at him as like your wide receiver 1 on there, with Jacoby Myers being like, the 2, a solid 2, because that's what Jacoby Myers is anyway. He's a solid wide receiver 2, not necessarily wide receiver 1. So, I don't see that Bowers' production dips or anything like that. If the opportunities dwindle a little bit because Janty's there and he's just takes over as most of the offense, I still think that there's enough there in the air game for him to be a very successful tight end. And we've seen Geno do well in the past with a couple of viable targets when he had both DK and Tyler Lockett going. We were okay with that for fantasy. So I don't think. And then Brock Bowers is it's a onesie position at tight end, so he's definitely somebody that you're willing to take your shot on. But yeah, I mean, it's a toss up for me there. I mean, Bowers, McBride, Kittle.
Do you think it's justified him going in the first round in maybe a 12 or 14 man league, kind of taking the place of what Travis Kelce was doing a few years back?
Yeah, if it's a one, like, okay, if you have a tight end position, right, and it's there, but if you have they folded the tight end position, you have flexes, then probably not, right? Okay. So, but yeah, I guess some people would do it there towards the tail end, and you want to say, hey, I want to go ahead and just secure this, but I think that you could probably wait. You don't have to pull the trigger there. I personally would let somebody else do it because I'd take, not rather have, but I'd be perfectly fine with McBride or Kittle instead of Bowers if I'm going to, deploy that strategy of trying to lock up a tight end early. Bogey says I like Bowers a lot.
Yeah, I like Bowers again this year a lot. It's hard to argue against Geno being a top 15 at the position. Yeah,
he's a capable.
Lee, what say you about Brock Bowers? What's your take on him? Any chance of a comeback sophomore slump type of thing?
No, I think I think we're going to see more touchdowns from him because one, he has a better coaching staff, he has a better quarterback, so I see the more touchdown upgrade for him this year. And it sucks because he's in my division.
Miles, did you hear that? I think we just converted Lee into a Raiders fan.
No, I did not. I said it sucks because he's in my division.
If you look at some of my dynasty startups from this last summer, I was getting Raiders really late. I got myself the Geno, I got Jacoby Myers, I even got some of the rookies. I got the Jack Besh and even the other guy Thornton. So I lined it up, and they were just floating around there in the double-digit rounds, and I was like, "Give me these Raiders." I mean, if they can bring the whole band back together, right, like they did back with Seattle, then we can have some viable fantasy guys here with the Raiders. So. I surprisingly drafted a lot of Raiders in Dynasty.
You know who helped me every once in a while with the Raiders, wide receiver wise, was it Trey Turner?
Oh yeah.
Is
it Trey Turner? Trey Tucker.
Trey Tucker. Yes, Trey Tucker.
Anyways, he's there also, and he could definitely flex it. Yeah, exactly. I guilty. I picked him up and used him as well.
All right, guys, we are getting up to it here to the end of the show. I really do appreciate, once again, you guys coming back to the clubhouse. Every time we have somebody in here, we always do ask.
Come back.
And you guys listened. That was awesome. So I hope you enjoyed yourself here. So before we say goodbye here, Miles, please give a shout out again to where the good people can find you to check out you and what you do.
Yeah, of course. You see it right there on the tag on the bottom, neonpeacockmerch.com. Got, of course, the Crook has he has his link to his personal shirt that's up there. You can find those as well if you guys want to support. They have the QR code on them and everything. You can spread the word, get people motivated and excited about the podcast. But yeah, check out neonpeacockmerch.com. 35% off sale right now. $14 t-shirts. You can see we're all three of us are rocking a Neon Peacock t-shirt right now on this podcast. And then if you want to hit me up for any commissions, Miles Peacock 24, Miles Peacock 24 on Instagram, or you can find me Miles Peacock on Facebook as well. Just look for stuff. I can do the Simpsons things. I can do NBA Jam style stuff. I mean, anything you can think of, it can be done. That's the motto. So
there's nothing this genius can't do.
I appreciate that, Lee. And of course, you can find me rocking with Lee on the Gen Wealth Net as well on YouTube, doing our thing. We have tomorrow night, we'll be doing the Playmakers around 9:00 Central. We're going to have a trivia night, and I have several questions lined up and ready to go for the panel. We're going to be playing for points. So we'll see.
And we got a draft race tomorrow, too.
We also have a 32-man draft race for our World War 32 draft order. So check that out, guys.
Check it out. Yeah, I need some guys cheering for my horse there. Root for the Crooked Commish horse there. I don't even know what pick I want. 32-man league, like
I
guess I
one
just
maybe.
I don't want to be dead in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, this will be my first 32-man league, so we'll see how it goes, man.
Yeah, this will be my first one too.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, but we'll keep everybody informed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, please let the good people here in the
Clubhouse
Clubhouse
know. As Miles said, you can find me over on the Gen Wealth. You'll find me there Tuesdays, Fridays, and Thursdays, and Fridays. Well, Tuesdays and Fridays are our regular days, but we have our playmakers on Thursdays. So, and then again, as soon as the season starts on our channel, we pretty much rock every single day.
Yeah, we'll do a waiver show.
You won't find it.
Yeah, we'll do early morning stuff, usually like a waiver show, and Sundays we do a live stream. We'll do the Grit Don't Quit, where we set your lineup several hours before, and then we'll do watch parties all throughout and answer questions all day long, all the way until the Sunday night games, and then we'll keep that going. So in season,
I want to give a
very
shout
busy.
out to JD, Bogey, Kidda. Peacock's already here. And all the other guys. I want to shout out to all those boys, and I want to thank Crooked Commish for having me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Like I said, I really do appreciate it. Like I said, especially my co-host Mount from the Bay wasn't able to join me, so like I said, it means a lot to me that you guys were able to come in on the fly.
My pleasure.
I really do appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Like I said, I owe you guys the favor, so thank you guys. So I appreciate it. Can't pimp your guys' product enough, or kind of your channel enough. So like I said, if you guys like what you saw here and what we do, you guys will like the network channel as well. So
heck yeah.
And the invitation's always there for you.
Yeah, you can always come rock. You can always come rock with us when we're just shooting the shit. Usually Tuesday and Friday mornings, like Lee says on Wake Your Game Up, and so we do that, and we bring you the news, the ear from the streets. Lee himself breaks it down, and we just go round robin on the panel, giving our thoughts. So, and then we take questions from the chat as well, try to help people out with any trades or roster moves, things of that nature. So, come check us out.
Yeah, you got to check out the word from the street there. Lee does it a certain type of way. I got to see it how it goes there. So
very interesting. It's very good stuff. Yeah, you got to check that out. We have a whole drop for it and everything. So lots of good fantasy stuff. We just like to have fun. Yeah, we just like to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys, thank you again, everyone out there. Please, thank you. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Please do that. And thank you for watching us and viewing. Remember, be safe out there, be good out there. But if you can't be good, well, damn it, at least be good at it.
You got to decide whether you're a wolf or a sheep.
The winner of that 32-man league will be the ultimate wolf.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's gonna be.
This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.